adoption of the agenda. Currently, the members that are present is Representative Janita Yantimar, Representative Vicente Camacho, Representative BJ Atto. We also have Representative Tina Sablan online. Myself, the chair of the JGO committee, Senator Edith De Leon Guerrero. I also want to recognize our LB staff, Legal Counsel Antoinette Villagomez, and the LB Journal Clerk, Ms. Blanco, and all the other technical team within the legislature. Good afternoon, everyone. Now, before again I call the adoption of the agenda, I would like to recognize that under Rule 4, Section 2, we do have a quorum. We only need about 3 members, so we have more than enough numbers to proceed with the meeting this afternoon. Additionally, under Rule 12, for warrants, subpoenas, oaths, and contempt, I would like to invoke for the oath of the presenter this afternoon, Mr. Epifanio E. Cabrera Jr., who's the program administrator for the Rental Assistance and Utilities Program. And if there's no objections with the member to administer the oath with Mr. Cabrera. Any objection?
No objection.
Thank you. May I ask the legal counsel, please, to administer the oath to Mr. Cabrera? Go ahead, Ms. Blanco. Thank you.
Epifanio E. Cabrera Jr., do you solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Excuse me, just a moment, please. Can you please step up to the chamber, Mr. Cabrera, so that you could officially raise your hand? Thank you very much. Ms. Blanco, can you please repeat the oath?
Can you raise your right hand? Epifanio E. Cabrera Jr., do you solemnly swear under the penalty of perjury that the testimony you shall give in the matter at hand shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Thank you so much. May I hear a motion to adopt the agenda for this afternoon?
So moved.
It has been moved and seconded for the adoption of the agenda for this afternoon's meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those nay?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carried. The agenda has been adopted. We're now moving on to item 3 of the agenda for this afternoon under public comments. It's now open for anybody to come in and make a comment regarding the agenda for this afternoon. If you are making a comment, I would also ask that you present your written statement to the committee if you have one, and to also limit your comments to about 5 minutes. The floor is open. Anybody from the gallery to make a public comment? There is no one from the gallery to make a public statement this afternoon. I do want to say for the record, though, that we do have some written comments submitted to the committee today and some other days as well, and I'm sure some of the members have copies of those. Moving on, I would like to request Mr. Cabrera, Epi, to go ahead and do your presentation this afternoon. I did have a conversation with you the other evening to please limit your presentation to about maybe 10 or 15 minutes at the most, so that we can move straight into the questions regarding the program administration. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
I remove my mask, right? Oh, is it okay? Thank you, Chair, and thank you, distinguished Congress men and women. I would like to call on my staff, Bruce Camacho and Dana Caldwell, to come and assist me with the presentation.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome to come forward.
First of all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to expound on the program more, specifically on the SARA program and how it's progressing along. Next slide, please. For now, the SARA program has 13 staff members, and it's on your screen right now. We have 1 grant specialist and 3 program officers 8 admin assistant or caseworkers, and 1 admin clerk. Total of 13 members serving a population of applicants with about 1,400. Next slide, please. As you can see on the far top right, we have about 1,431 applicants that were received by the office, and it breaks it down by Saipan and Rhoda, and it's in the different levels of the review process, and it's stated on the left side. The most important information, I guess you could say or witness or is the 219 memos that were issued to finance. We are on the verge of trying our best to get to a level of 20% per week of requesting for payments. That's 219 right there. So 219 in 1 week since last Thursday or Friday. Hopefully, we can solve or we can issue every household rental that applied for in the next 6 to 7 weeks. That'll give it by the first week of July. The 1204 on the far right that you see, or the bottom right that you see, basically is the total number of applicants minus the ineligible minus those that were canceled. And they were canceled due to, Ms. Dana can elaborate why they were canceled.
So for those that were deemed ineligible, it was due to them being homeowners, or they due to status as to why they were deemed ineligible.
Excuse me, Ms. Campbell, I didn't quite clearly hear. Can you please bring down your mask a little bit so that you can speak clearly? Thank you.
So for those that were deemed ineligible, it was due to them being homeowners, or they were screened with our eligibility criteria, as well as the status for that our program is currently open to, which is U.S. citizen, long-term resident, or CNMI permanent resident.
Thank you.
Next slide, please. What we have up here is the fund status report that was provided to the committee, and it illustrates about $10.9 million. I'm sorry, I can't really read this too far. $10.19 million in available funding in the program. There are 2 accounts that were set up. One is for admin, and the other one is for the benefits for the clients. And the 2 sub-account numbers or the 2 business units are listed there in that listing. Next slide, please. So wait, hold on. As you can see, on the encumbrance side, that is the total number of pending inputs at finance. Whereas if you have the cumulative expenditure, that's how much has been already spent in the program. Next slide, please. So right now, as we speak, we are at batch number 6. Batch number 6 is Friday today. We are submitting, or it's being routed right now, 27 requests for payments to finance in the amount of $49,571, bringing the total in a week for 1 week's worth of work to $444,734.59, which is an average $74,122.43 a day in work submitted to finance for processing for payments for landlords only. We do not issue checks to tenants. They only issue checks to landlords. So we are averaging about 36.5 applicants or household processing of payments a day. So we first started, as you can see, the first batch of checks were paid out on May 19, which is 2 days ago. You can see that we submitted the documents to finance on May 11, Tuesday, last week, and it takes about 8 days to process. There is a process when it comes to finance and getting the checks out. They're really reviewing everything thoroughly. Next slide, please. So what are the primary issues that we are encountering with the program? First of all, landlords don't have a business license. Clients are not submitting their required documents as needed. And some of the landlords believe that checks are going to be issued to the tenants. So they're very fearful of, why should I help when the money's going to go straight to the tenant? That's not the case. We want it to be very clear that the checks are going to the landlords. Next slide, please. What has changed in the past week? We outlined the several meetings that we had. The governor and lieutenant governor has lit a fire under the office to push for more checks to be out, or to assist the public more, as we need to assist more. So I can see in the date, May 11 was 10 days ago. We had a meeting in the governor's conference room with the lieutenant governor, with housing, DCCA, LEHAP, DYS, and others in the administration to discuss ways to improve how to get the program going even faster. On May 12th, the next day, we had a meeting down at the Sarah office in CK, the old Penthouse building. And for 2 hours, we discussed strategies on how to better improve again. After that, we sat down and we basically figured out where the bottlenecks were with the program. And it really, what I've noticed is that most of the bottleneck lies with the accounting section. The SARE program is fairly new, right? They have to start everything from ground up. Dana, Ms. Calvo did an excellent job in trying to get everything from zero up to where it's at right now. All the policies, all the procedures, Ms. Calvo did an excellent job. Her and her team are very excellent in what they do. So the bottleneck was they lacked an accounting section. So we filled the gap. OGM went down there and filled that gap. What did we do? We had to call once the papers went to our section, we had to call for the invoices. We were requesting invoices and business licenses from the landlords because finance would not process the check without the business license, plain and simple. And we also have to get their tax ID, their W-9 form. So that's where that is at. So on May 18, we reached out to the SOF and FNA, Finance and Accounting, to discuss whether a signature from the SOF was necessary in order to process the check. They said no need, because FNA is rigorously reviewing the document anyway, so it's okay if my signature is enough to warrant to pay the request for payment. Usually, sometimes the SOF will sign. At this time, we agreed that he won't sign. This removed 2 days in the routing of because you have to wait, right? Sometimes he's a very busy guy. Some of the pending actions right now we have in the office, as mentioned, batch 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are at finance for processing for the checks. And as of yesterday, we did reach out to CUC to try and get an invoice for $100,000 to transfer funds from the account as like an advance payment to CUC, so that we can assist clients that are at the brink of being disconnected or they need assistance with their CUC bills. So as of today, we received the invoice around 10:30, 11 a.m. The governor has concurred with the document, and it's heading to finance for approval. Once the money is approved, a check will be cut to CUC, then $100,000 will be there, and then a memo issued from the office or SARA program will be used to draw down money specifically to those eligible clients in the program. So it's a quicker way of paying or helping that client that's eligible without being disconnected or going out of power. We needed to figure a way to accelerate the CUC portion, and that is one of the ways that we agreed upon with the administration. Next slide, please. As you can see, this is a JD screenshot. Nothing against finance. finance is doing an excellent job. Yesterday, I screenshot the open encumbrance, and you can see that $35,000, that's an encumbrance. That means they are slowly inputting the entries in JD. For batch number two was about, batch number two is $95,000 request for payment. So they are entering as we speak. The 54,000 represents batch number one. Those are all the checks that were already cut. That's how this JD works. And then there's the balance for the 9.27 million is the balance for the program's benefits. Next slide, please. An update 1 hour ago shows that it went up to 121,000. So it went up from, was that 35 to 121,000, surpassing batch number two. That means they're already in batch number three. We are really monitoring how fast we can get the checks out to the landlords. Next. Right now, as you can see, there's the invoice that we got from CUC for 100,000. So that way we can formally book it in, obligate into the account, so we can get the money into CUC, so we can do the draw funds for eligible clients. This is also for disconnection fees, late fees, penalties, deposits, and their regular bills for water, power, and sewer. Next slide, please. So what are some of the proposed changes that we have in store? A, we are trying our best to increase home inspectors per day to match the output of the request for payments to 30 a day. If we only have 2 inspectors and they're only processing 12 a day, that means the accounting section is going to get only 12 requests for payments. So we got to get it up to 30. So the administration is involved, and they're finding a way to get more inspectors to the office by next week. B, with the help of the staff and Ms. Dana Calvo, we have reduced the text writing portion by the clients. Instead of manually writing their attestation about how they were impacted by COVID, we're using checkmark boxes to try and make it more quick. But they can also add their statements if necessary. But using that sort of tool will help speed up about 20 to 30 minutes in the process. We're trying to figure out every way. We are also working with the SOF on addressing the need to expedite business license. Usually, that's not our taking care of business license should be on the landlord's part, not the SERA program. Landlords should have the responsibility to get their own license, their own business license. We are also discussing with the SOF about maybe a tax amnesty. Maybe some of these landlords don't want to apply for the business license because they're going to get hit hard for back taxes that they didn't pay. So that's an issue, and we have to clear it up with the SOF, Secretary of Finance. We're trying our best to reduce the document requirements without sacrificing or reducing the information needed for federal reporting. We need certain data to be submitted. Like just like yesterday's meeting last night, some of the missing documents were a copy of the ID. How can you not submit your copy of the ID to the program? We need a copy of your ID. We cannot work without guessing who you are, right? Another possible change is probably we need to hire multilingual staff, like they could speak Chinese or Korean, because some of our clients are in Chinese and Korean. Maybe there's a language barrier. We also, with ERA 2 coming in, we will increase staffing to get more. We need more caseworkers, and especially to fill the accounting section. Well, letter G is that's one suggestion. OGM can permanently move down to the SERA office in order to be closer to them, in order to get faster access to signatures and accounting and assistance. Or we could work half day in Capitol Hill and then move down to Sarah and CK in the other half of the day. That's one of the suggestions for. Please keep in mind that the grants office, we're pretty busy too, right? So we like to put out fires, but this is a big one. And we apologize to the public, and we are trying our best to expedite and increase our efficiency. But moving 200 households in 1 week, I think that's a good show of effort from our office. And I hope the committee understands and the public understands that we are trying our best. Next slide. And that's it. Dana, do you want to add anything? Okay, Bruce. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the PowerPoint presentation. Please make sure that the committee gets a copy of that presentation. You could email it to us, or the Sergeant at Arms can retrieve if there's any hard copy with you this afternoon. I'd like to move along the conversation since we are pressed for time. There's another meeting coming in at 3:30, so I would really like for us, the committee, to get some questions out and get some answers for the public that are waiting for these benefits. I myself, the chair of the JGO, I have had a call, or calls from individuals. Dana, I've spoken to you on the telephone. Thank you so much for your assistance for making sure that letter goes out, and so that at that time period, that a mother and a 5-year-old child does not get kicked out on the street as a result of delinquent rental payment because they have been waiting for this benefit. And I do get those kind of calls frequently. Even before we started the meeting this afternoon, I got an anonymous letter also that this person had applied a while back. To this day, we have not yet seen an inspector being told about the inspectors coming into their home or wherever they're at for their, to be inspected, and they have not seen anybody come and visit. These are the concerns, and I do hope you guys also understand that this is for the people. This money is made available to help the people out there that are affected by COVID-19. And the best we could do is to effectuate the funds going out to them and to make sure that whatever system bottlenecking is happening, that we fix it, because we are here to help the people. And so moving right along, I would like to, if there's any member that has a question, it's open for question, and we can move around the questions, because I do have a lot of financial questions also that I would like to pose to the committee, to the department that's running the program at the moment. Members, anybody? Recognize Representative Camacho.
Thank you, Chair. I just have one real quick question. I just need clarification. What does encumber really mean?
Encumbrance means that an entry has been made by finance. The check hasn't been issued. It's like it's a payable entry. Yeah. So it has been obligated but not paid.
But does that apply to a client?
Sir, that's it's an accounting procedure at finance.
Okay. But it has nothing. So it has nothing to do with clients. It has something to do with the operations, correct?
Yes, sir.
I just wanted to be clear about that, because I thought that encumber means some form of difficulty or blockage for the clients. I guess this is an accounting term, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Representative Camacho. Can you please keep up your PowerPoint on the values, please? I'd like to take a look at that. Any other members? Question? Recognize Representative BJ Atto.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Cabrera and your team. Bruce, welcome to the legislature. Just, again, maybe this is an unfair question to you guys, but how many of the landlords were in compliance with their business licenses that actually applied to you?
Are not in compliance.
Not in compliance. Well, they don't have business licenses. how many of the tenants that try to apply through you guys, but the landlords that obviously offer the housing?
What Francis is saying. According to one of the caseworkers, she said that 70% of her her workload, there's no business license. So she has about 200. So 70% is 140.
Is it possible for this committee to get a copy of the listings of the potential of those specific landlords? So maybe we can get with finance and have their enforcement, the division, take care of this, because obviously they've been doing business for some time, and now the opportunity for these, they're kicking people out without a business license, and yet they're functioning as a business, they're making profits without paying their taxes.
Yeah, that's true, because there is like a receipt law, right? Or a receipt clause. If you don't get a receipt, then the goods should be free. So clients should not be kicked out if there's no receipt or no valid business license per se, right?
I agree. So maybe if we can get the listings of those landlords from the clients, I mean, they're not gonna like it, but they're also doing a disservice to the tenants that.
Yes, but we're proposing an amnesty. I don't know if that's in the SOF's responsibility, if that's possible. So that way we can move forward with this.
An amnesty retro.
Yeah, amnesty retro.
Okay, but can we get a listing of those
Yes, sir.
landlords? And that's alarming. That's 70% of 200 plus, you said?
Just from one
From one
caseworker.
caseworker? That would be very useful information when we talk about the budget here.
We did reach out to Pam Holstead from Revenue Tax and a business license. They are seeing an increasing amount of applications for rentals, business
True.
license.
Then maybe we can cross-check with the tenants that are living in these households for how long have they been living there and how long obviously they haven't had a business license. That would be very interesting to know for our use here at the legislature. So with that, Chair, thank you for now.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative BJ Atto. Before I recognize Representative Yantimai, I would also recommend that the federal grantor, the U.S. Treasury, be informed about these things, because these are federal dollars, and we're talking about amnesty on establishments that have been doing business in the Commonwealth illegally. And before we start talking amnesty, let's first talk also to make sure whether this is even allowable for businesses to even receive the federal dollars, considering we do have tenants in their buildings, and how can we bring this to a understanding and remedy that would benefit those individuals and families that are being affected. Recognize Representative Denita Yantimai.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, we've seen a lot of an increase in the Chinese and Koreans over here. You said you guys need translators. Would that be for the tenants or the business owners?
For both.
Can you share your plans about getting these translators? I mean, how are you gonna select them?
We can put up an announcement, job announcement for them. Or we can
Are you
go
gonna
to
put them
translating
through
service.
training, some sort of training, or?
Or you're talking about the training portion or the language portion?
Both.
If they can speak Chinese or Korean, then I mean that's a plus, right? They're multilingual and English. So from the language part, that's already a plus. And then Ms. Calver and her team will help with the training of the operations to get them up to par, so they can assist the clients.
Okay, thank you. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Yantimai. Let me offer a suggestion to your team. I ran into issues regarding translation services and interpretations during my time at the Department of Labor. To accelerate the process, we have the court system. They have a long list of translators, okay? So engage yourselves in getting that list so that you can identify who can participate and who can provide the services that you need without you wasting your time to try to advertise for something. As a matter of fact, speaking of advertising, I see that you have a $10,000 allocation on your fund status report. And I was wondering what advertisements are you guys doing since the beginning of the grant period of this January 27, 2021. Those are the concerns that I have.
I can answer that.
Go ahead, please.
Advertising is not isolated just for general advertising. In the accounting code, the advertising is also used for the announcement of bids. So when you rent a car or when you announce to lease a car or to rent a building, you need to use the class code for advertising under finance rules. So advertising, we're using that for advertisement, for bid announcements.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I do have other questions. Members, go ahead and raise your hand if you have any questions because of the time limitation. There's a lot of financial questions that I want to talk to the group here this afternoon. Can you describe to the committee exactly what is your responsibility as an Office of Grants Management?
In regards to the STAR program or in regards
to your responsibility by public law? Because I'm beginning to wonder, we do have the Housing Corporation.
Yes.
They are the experts, really.
Yes.
They've been there for a long time. So I was wondering, why is the grants office the one running the program rather than having the NOHC engage in this program so that we could accelerate the funds going out to the community for those people that are in need. So I need that clarification from you. Why is it that the Housing Corporation is not involved in this process?
Truthfully, I got a phone call from the governor, and the governor asked me whether or not we could run it. And I asked him, do you want me to run it? And he said, do you need me to run it? And I said, okay, if you want me to run it, we'll run it.
I could see the question of, do you want it to run it? At this juncture, I'm looking at the fund status report, and the grant period ends on December 31st, 2021.
Yes.
We're talking about 7 months out from
Yes.
today as we speak. I'm looking at the expenditure ratio. It's less than 5%. Less than 5% with the numbers that you guys are presenting this afternoon. Less than 5% has reached the individuals that are in most need. Your administrative expenses is about 13.5% on this fund status report that I'm looking at as of May 19. Okay, 140,812.55 to be exact, divided into your 1,040,066.93. Your total administrative cost to date, as the fund status report, is 13.5%. You are 12.79% higher than the less than 5% services program out for the people that are most in need. So my next question to go into your PowerPoint presentation on the JD Edwards, is that the system name? I see the batches that are entered into the finance system, but I'm wondering, do we have to wait for all those batches to be entered for those payments to roll out? I don't think so. As they are entered, I'm wondering if the checks are being printed at the same time so that these individuals out there that are waiting to get the assistance so they don't get kicked out on the street, right? The landlords are getting the money. So I'm just wondering if that's what it is. Is this what the bottleneck is?
Actually, it's a whole process, right? Because it's encumbered, it's the entry, right? They enter it, then it goes to actuals. Then they have to post it. Once it's posted, you cannot issue a check if it's in the encumbrance phase. You cannot. It's the way the system is built. And once we see the actuals go up, that means the checks can be printed. So we called Treasury and said, can you please print the checks? Because it went through the whole processed already at finance. So you cannot get a check without it being going to actuals. And for information, we do have Ms. Calvo's system is very good. Checks or notices to tenants are being mailed, and they're also calling the tenants to let them know that the landlords are picking up the checks. And we ask finance specifically that we are to take the checks and hand deliver it to the landlord. And then the landlord comes and signs their checks that they received. So we have copies of all the checks with their signatures to prove that they did come and take the check. And we also provide them a copy of the invoice matching the amount on the check. So everything, the process is pretty good after they get the check.
Okay, so,
But going back to your statement, whether the operations exceeded the cost for the ratio of services, well, the program is new. We have every program that is new has natural delays. We have startup costs, and as the days go by, the weeks go by, those things diminish. But as you can see, we are making an effort to increase the efficiency with the program. And by doing the math, we are to reach about $4.5 million in 7 weeks. If we consistently hit that 30 per day ratio.
let me ask a further question. As all of this, I understand the processes, okay?
Okay.
I'm not an alien to this. How much money has been drawn down from the grant?
From the feds,
From the federal system? How much money has been drawn down?
they're all here.
They're all here? So all of the money is in the bank?
Sit in my treasury, yes.
Okay. The entire $10.4 million is in
Yes.
the US Treasury, it's in my treasury.
Yes.
And today is already May. And I understand you're talking about the hiccups at the
Yes.
onset. And you're telling this committee that you will meet your expenditure threshold. What is the expectation of your federal grant for the US Treasury with respect to your expenditure threshold to meet at a certain time period? We're already in May. The grant is 10.4.
65% by August 31st, I believe, or August, something in August.
65% by August?
Yeah, drawn, or used, obligated, 65%. So technically that's 6.5 million-ish, right? Minus your admin cost, which is gonna run like 1 million, so another 650,000. But if don't forget that we are also obligating 100,000 CUC, and that's, if it's gonna cost more, then we're gonna spend 100,000 quickly, maybe in a month for CUC.
I understand, and that will increase your expenditure threshold?
Yes.
Right, totally understand that. Now, I see that there is an allocation of 483,500 for personnel.
Yes.
And you made a statement that you guys need more people.
Yes.
So my question to that allocation is, are these new hires on the 483,500 allocation for personnel?
In the beginning, remember when we had that meeting here, the last meeting, we said that we were gonna hire some of the furloughs, right? We did hire one at that time. But your question is, those are all new hires.
Okay, those are all new hires, and you still feel that it's insufficient to run the program efficiently?
If we need to get the services out, we need to have more people. Unless you want the grants office to be down there the whole 2 months in order to expend to get it to a 90 or 80% expended rate.
I don't think it's a desire of this committee to dictate that.
Okay.
The interest of this committee is to get the monies out,
Okay.
to read the expenditure ratio, to get the people assisted. Okay? And in fact, this afternoon is when I receive your policies and procedures. It's still in draft form. That's another question that I have. It is still in draft form. So I'm wondering what procedures are we following, because the policies and procedures is not final, right? I was given this afternoon the draft copy of the policies and procedures.
this morning.
Is there any explanation to that?
Hi, so there are certain procedures that we are looking to add on, and we are constantly, it being such a new program, the staff and I constantly brainstorm and see as to how we can make things faster. And I trust the staff, they're the experts, they deal with the clients, they know what happens on the day-to-day. And so they give me feedback, input on stuff, and we add it on if necessary to make things faster and move quicker. So that's why I put it in draft form, because we constantly shift as needed, and we are trying to get the assistance out as fast as possible to these households because we understand the urgency. And that's why it's in draft form. And there are certain like re-eligibility, we have to determine that every 3 months. So that, for example, we're getting it established. We're making sure we have our forms in order, and we're getting prepared for it because we're aware it's coming. So that is why it's in draft form.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Calvo, for your clarification. Now, earlier, you made a statement that only U.S. citizens, long-term residents, green card holders that are qualified for the program. Is there any question to the federal grantor with respect to any other population that may qualify for the program? And are you guys waiting for any response back? And how often is that being followed up? Just so that we answer the community's concerns of whether a certain group of people, are they eligible or not?
So yes, we are looking into it, and we have referenced other rental programs that are in the mainland, closer here locally, like Guam. So we look to see what they're doing, and we have sought guidance from Treasury. We haven't gotten an answer back. So we do announce to the public that as soon as we have a more clear and definite decision and more feedback, we will make public announcements and make sure that the community is aware if the program is able to open up.
Thank you, Ms. Calvo. So when was the latest follow through with is that with the U.S. Treasury on who else is qualified with respect to the population here?
I want to say last month, April. Yes, we were looking into FSM status and other statuses to see if they would be, we would be able to assist with our program. And we did reach out to the Guam rental program to verify as well.
Okay, so I would assume that you will be probably writing the next follow-up email, perhaps maybe after the meeting today, just to have that sense of documentation so that we could accelerate moving forward, whether the other target population that are out there that are hoping to qualify for the program, whether they're eligible or not, considering that even PUA went through that process on the onset, and then the subsequent continuation act allowed the CW ones to qualify for the program and so forth. So it's the same situation that we are facing with your program, and I'm still not so comfortable with where is the participation of NMHC, considering that again they run the program for their clients, and they've been doing it for so many years under the HUD program. So with all of these obstacles that we're facing at the moment, I'm wondering where is NMHC's role in this whole process, and is there any partnership, collaboration, and to assist this program to move forward much more quicker, considering that we're 7 months out, and we need to get going with the program and get those monies out to the community so that we do not need to de-obligate in case we don't meet our expenditure threshold.
Yes, so NMHC was a great help in throughout this entire program. They really assisted us in the beginning, especially with giving us, having us look into their ESG program. And we referenced that a lot to start up the rental assistance program, with looking at their forms, their notices, and their full process as to how they run the ESG program. So we use that as our guideline and our foundation to build up the rental. And I can say that throughout the program, I constantly reference NMHC, and I do contact them for some guidance and feedback on the questions or rare cases that I have with the rental program. So they've been of great help and have continuously given advice and assistance. And we did have that meeting as well last week that they came in and did give us some feedback and advice. So they've assisted us throughout the program, and they continue to do so. And I know that when I call, they're always there to answer my questions, and we're very grateful for that.
Okay. Is there any other questions from the members before I do have other questions to proceed with? Members? Any further questions from you?
Yes, but later.
Later? Well, I don't want to ask all the questions. I mean, if you have one, please go ahead and proceed. Okay. Now, I know that I'm not sure whether when we were having all this conversation, whether we are also addressing the needs of road and Tinian applicants.
Hi, yes. So Rhoda, we've received a total of 8 applications from Rhoda and 27 applications from Tinian. The community is able to pick up rental applications at the respective mayor's office, and we are hoping to conduct an outreach to inform the respective islands on the program and get the word out a little bit more. But we have been trying our best to get the word out and have more applicants come in. But with receiving just 8 on Rhoda, we want to make sure that everyone is aware, and we do communicate with our respective contacts at each island.
So this is the reason why I keep going back to NMHC, because NMHC has an office also on Road and Tinian. And this is where I keep inserting NMHC. You know, I'm actually encouraging NMHC and for your team to collaborate and partner up. And today's already May, and if we're only now doing the outreach to Road and Tinian, even though the numbers are maybe considerably smaller than Saipan, I'm still concerned because people are in arrears and they're waiting for these benefits to come in. And you know, to have our citizens be worried if they're going to get kicked out tomorrow because they are seriously delinquent on their rents, right? And then their power is delinquent. Their telephones are also getting disconnected. So these are the fundamental concerns that I have as the chair of this committee, and I'm urging your office to engage much more, you know, in partnership with NMHC, because they do have offices also on Road and Tinian, so that we could provide and accelerate those services for those minimal applications coming in from Road and Tinian. Obviously, the bigger bulk of the applications from Saipan, and with the obstacle that we are facing with, you know, illegal businesses that have tenants, but they're also delinquent on their rents. And how is this government going to resolve that issue with respect to the lack of business license? You know, we're talking about tax amnesty or penalty amnesty. It's a very serious concern for the island of Saipan. I wonder if you're facing the same obstacles for the islands of Road and Tinian as well. Yes, yes, same problem too. Businesses in operation with tenants and no legal business license? Is that what it is?
Yes, so we've merged Tinian and Rhoda applications based on the date of receival. So we just started reviewing Tinian applications, and the caseworker that is handling the Tinian applications has reviewed and has made it a point to notify the households that what documents are needed, such as the business license and W-9. So they are being informed and worked on for their respective islands as well.
This is very concerning, considering that if you're expecting to meet a certain threshold, right, sometime in August, to try to expend the funds, we should all be concerned if this is even allowable, considering that those businesses that have these tenants are operating in the Commonwealth without a valid business license. We don't want to encounter a problem like the $8 million overtime that was paid out, and then subsequently FEMA, the grantor, refused to pay and reimburse the Commonwealth. This is a serious concern. And I wonder if your team have brought this issue up with the U.S. Treasury, that this is the burden now that where we are at, because finance is not going to pay the money out absent those legal business licenses. What's going to happen to the people that are living in those units? And the landlord is not going to get their check because they have yet to submit the required legal documentation to operate. As a matter of fact, it is the law in the Commonwealth that if you're going to establish as a business, you have to be licensed to have a business, right? And all of these are going under the radar, and it's a leakage, really, for unreported income that the Commonwealth could be collecting on, right? My bigger concern, like I said, will the U.S. Treasury, the United States government allow this? Or are we going to run into another issue like the $8 million overtime that became disallowable expense, and we swallow that expense, becoming a deficit?
Madam Chair, as mentioned before, all the payment requests are being submitted with a copy of their business license and the W-9 to finance. Every request, no matter if it's duplicated or like a re-entry, they are being submitted. So they have proof that it's a legal business. So we are not going to submit one that doesn't have a business license as part of the procedure established in the office.
And that's where my concern is at.
Yes.
Okay, and obviously true that you don't submit something without validation, correct? Without legal, right, establishment. What's going to happen to those tenants? What's going to happen to those tenants is my worry. How many families are affected? How many children are in that situation where they have a landlord without a valid business license, and now they're caught in this jeopardy? What's going to happen to those families is what I am concerned about. How is this group, this department, going to address that issue? Because I tell you what, if the business person is not going to want to legalize itself, right, they could easily shut down and kick everybody out. That's reality. Are we prepared for that? That's the worry that I have. And I need your team to tell this committee, have you even thought about this risk that we are facing right now? What are you guys going to do about it?
So when we come across cases where the landlord doesn't have a business license, we have communicated and encouraged that the landlord does obtain one, and it doesn't hold up the process. If all we're waiting on is the business license, it moves the case forward. And it's when the assistance determination part, when we're about to issue it to finance, that we re-inquire and ask the landlord if they can provide us with a receipt that they filed their business license or some sort of documentation from Revenue Tax that proves that. And they would provide it, and we attach that as well to the memos that are issued to finance in order to assist these households. And we do contact landlords as well for those households that are facing eviction, and we speak with them and we update them on where their tenant is on the application process and explain where our program is overall. And we apologize for the processing time that it's been taking, and we do our outreach to see if there's any way we can communicate with the landlord so that they can at least understand that we do have the application. It's just we're trying to process and get this assistance out as fast as we can.
Thank you, Ms. Calvo. Again, I've read the documents of the program. Expenditures beginning March of 2020 is when it begins with respect to allowable expenditures, correct?
Yes, yeah, March.
Right,
Mhm.
exactly. But as we speak today,
Yes.
there are establishments, right, that do not have the legal business document. What's going to happen to those time period backwards?
We don't.
Prospectively forward, right? When they become legal, you could honor those expenses, I would assume. I don't think I'm wrong on that. That's the point that I'm trying to make. What's going to happen? Because the reality is the landlord could turn around and say, well, Miss Tenant, your program did not pay me from March to June, for example. I became legal in July all the way up to December, right? So guess what? You still owe me that money. This is what I'm trying to tell you guys. To bring this situation forward with the federal grantor, that this is the reality that you guys are facing, because my point is we do not want to put that burden of cost on those individuals that are tenants, because it's not their fault. It is not their fault that they're caught in this situation, because you will not dare commit the federal government's money and pay for something in arrears beginning March of 2020, right? When they're not even legally in business. They're under the radar in the Commonwealth, and that you will only pay prospectively that are legal expenses, correct? But still, the reality is that landlord can still come back to that tenant and say, listen, you owe me. You owe me this money, and I'm going to kick you out. What's going to happen? Is there something in the rules? Is there like a safe harbor for the applicants, for the tenants, for protections? That's what I'm looking for. Have we dove deep in this, considering that you guys are running into this issue? Again, the interest of this committee is to protect the citizens out there that are in need of this assistance, so that we do not see any of our citizens, our children, be pushed out because they got caught in something like this. And I'm sure you guys can understand that. And you can, feel the pain that we hear and we worry about. And any thoughts, any strategies that you're thinking about to address that issue?
Yes, so one option that comes to mind is the household can always rehouse and move to another location where the business is operating in compliance and has a business license and is able to provide those documents needed.
And do you have the data in terms of those available inventory of units that if in case that these families need to be relocated? As a matter of fact, I even read the document. It talks about domestic violence, right? I have not heard you guys talk about that population. Is there anything out there that you guys are looking at right now with respect to domestic violence victims and the whole family that is involved in the household that are also affected? In fact, it does allow relocation costs. I have not heard any conversation about that this afternoon. Can you share more?
Yes, so we are aware that we have some clients that are in those situations, and our caseworkers do look into it and try and assist and see what the situation and circumstances are. And if it is in terms of rehousing, we will jump in and assist with such circumstances and what needs to be done. And so the caseworkers are aware, and we are aware that we have clients that have those circumstances, and we assist as much as we can.
And that is the reason why I brought up the issue about your policies and procedures.
Okay.
That is still in draft form.
Okay.
Because when we talk about domestic violence, we're talking about life and death situation.
Yeah.
And I wonder, what is the priority? Where in terms of hierarchy, ranking of cases? with respect to, I understand the income threshold, 80% of this, 50% of that.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, I've read it all.
Okay.
And I've read what are the qualifying expenses, the qualifying target groups. And this is the urgency that I'm trying to put with your team, okay? Is to address those needs, please. Because it is very important that we save these families, that we provide these monies out. And I see your vouchers going into finance, fine, we can see it all right? But it's not reaching them as we want it, and we want it faster, because they're the most in need. They're the ones that are trying to sleep at night, but they can't really sleep, because they don't know if there's not gonna be any roof over the top of their head. They don't know if somebody's gonna come and beat them up, and maybe they're not gonna see the sunlight tomorrow, right? So please, I am urging you guys to take this into heart. There's no other motivation of this team, none other than to push forward, to address the needs of the people, get those monies out, get these families assisted, get their powers up, pay all those arrears, work with CUC, work with LEA, work with everybody, NMHC, get this money out. You will meet your threshold. You will meet it. Just save the families, save the children, okay? Because it hurts when you get those kind of calls and a mother's pleading that I'm not gonna have a roof over the top of my head and my 5-year-old child because my landlord is demanding payment. There's no other motivation. I appreciate you guys for what you do, but I also want to encourage you guys to collaborate much more stronger. Get all the other government entities involved, the experts like NMHC. Sit down, look at the strategies, fix your policies and procedures, address the concerns, work with finance, get those monies out. It's in the bank. It's in the bank here in the Commonwealth already. Let's get it out, okay? And let's save these families. I don't have anything further to say. Any members? Recognize Representative BJ Atto.
Thank you, Chair. And maybe to assist the team here, yes, essentially what our chair is saying, that if these landlords do become certified landlords and pay their business license and their taxes, it's how far back? How far back did this program, what is this? Is it just March of this year or all the way back to last year?
For arrears, it's March 13, 2020.
2020?
Yes.
Okay, so for those, maybe this is something that you, the team and finance would consider, because I have that concern about the federal monies being utilized. They can become bona fide businesses in June of this year or maybe in May of this year, right? But then those monies are to be utilized for arrears to pay back. So if it's only to March of last year, of 2020, is finance amenable with the program to have a contractual agreement with the landlords that they'll retroactively solidify them as bona fide businesses back to March of 2020, provided, however, that they pay the business licenses for that year and the potential BGRT of the lost taxes collected by the CNMI. That'd be something maybe that the team would bring up with the finance, because I wouldn't be in support of finance doing a tax amnesty for these businesses, knowing the fact that these tenants are being kicked out of homes and the landlords themselves are not compliant with the CNMI laws. So maybe something to consider, so that before you write the check out to these landlords that are going to become qualified back to March of 2020, we can garnish the payment up front and pay into our coffers and give them the remaining balance. That's something that maybe we can consider in the negotiations with finance and these landlords. That's huge. 70% of 200 plus. That's huge. And that's just one caseworker now, Mr. Cabrera. So if there's anything, if that's an amnesty, call it an amnesty, but we need to make sure that they're whole and they pay their business, their licenses and their taxes also to date, so that they have the same pain that they're trying to impose in these tenants at the same time. No, thank you, Chair.
And to add on to that is, don't forget, do not forget the clients, okay? Because if those rental payments are not paid, like I said, the landlord could easily send them out on the streets. So when you're thinking about all of these concerns, that always put at the forefront those families that you are serving, to save them from being thrown out on the street because somebody did not have a legal license from March to June or whatever. And prospectively, we're moving forward to make a payment. Save them from that, okay? Please. I will continue to ask you, please, because that is my motivation. That is the motivation of this committee, is to help those families, to protect them, that they don't become victimized by the system itself due to lack of enforcement. It is not their fault. Recognize Representative Yantimai.
Sorry, we're gonna go back to the translators. The reason I brought it up was because I was in the census, and we had a hard time getting translators. We had 2 Chinese translators, and then one was removed because there's some kind of difficulty. So you guys have to start looking at wide and broad. And then for the FSM, the FSM compact, you guys understand that, right? So I came up with the COFA one, Compact of Free Association, series of treaties between the US FSM, RMI, and Republic of Palau. It allows citizens to have access to social and health services. The social will be the benefit of communities such as education, Medicare, medical care, and housing. So, that in itself explains that these people are eligible. We have some here, right? No? Okay.
Not necessarily a chairman, and just because of the compact impact funds that we receive extends to the FAS citizens. These programs are a little bit different. For example, like the first housing programs that got the housing allowance for the same type of assistance, FAS citizens weren't qualified because they were covered under the compact impact. It's the same way when we did the U2 initial assistance from FEMA. They weren't extended into FAS citizens at that time because of the compact impact funds that we received directly to service those specific population. So yeah, it's a little bit tricky. Obviously, this program is a little bit less maybe stringent than the NMHC program, but they also have their own regulations that obviously it's not clear because there's a lot of questions that from our end that we're still asking the Department of Treasury to get clearance for. So it's a little bit more complex than just the simple COFA explanation because of the compact impact funds that we do receive. That goes to healthcare, housing, and it's a formula based from the Department of Commerce, U.S. Department of Commerce, that's being utilized over here. It's a weird formula, but that's the formula I think that the 902 is trying to bring back up so we can address the formula to effectuate the population of FAS citizens in the CNO.
Thank you for the clarification.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, thank you, Chair. I yield.
Thank you. Before I release your team, it reminded me of something that you had mentioned earlier about how can you turn in an application and not submit your ID, right? The reality is some people cannot even afford an ID. So what I'm trying to say to the team is to be much more sensitive, okay? And see what other services or any kind of other subsidies that could help them out to produce those required documentations. I'll bet you a lot of the population that you're serving are qualified under the WIOA program. All right, so don't shy away from accessing all your state partners because you're not alone in this. Again, the population you're serving, they're also being served by other departments. And in fact, I read the act itself that if they've already been qualified from other programs, right, that serves sufficient documentation, correct? I read that. So let's not create further obstacles. Let's not create further bureaucracies in the process and make it easier for these families. I have no further questions, and I will release you guys and take a 2-minute recess. Moving right along on the agenda on item 6, announcements. Just for the members, I will be organizing other future meetings regarding other programs of social concern, so I will be sending that notice out. If not next week, then perhaps maybe the following. I know that the budget process is ongoing right now, so everybody's busy, and we're just trying to squeeze ourselves into this, short calendars that we have, trying to reserve the rooms between both chambers. So that's the announcement. May I hear a motion for the adjournment of this meeting?
So,
It has been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor say aye. Nay? This meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you very much.